Hey, it's Mr. Palmer. Hey, it's 2020 AP Human Geography exam. We're going to figure out what this new exam is going to look like this year. And so this PowerPoint is going to give you an overview of that, plus some ways to be successful and prepare for that test. So really super important. Hey, I want to thank Allison Cecil for this PowerPoint. I've modified parts of it, but the basics of it are created by her. So we're in Colorado. So when is the exam this year? Well, it's going to take place Tuesday, May 12th at 2 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. So you have to be there at your house at that time and making sure you're ready to go. I'm going to ask that you log on at 1:30 to access the online testing system, make sure it's set up, that it's working properly. We want to make sure that this works smoothly. What do I need to take the AP exam this year? Well, you can take any of these things. You can use a phone, an iPad, and a computer, but I'm going to strongly recommend that you have a computer that you can type your answers into it. You can write on pencil and paper and write your answers and then submit it, but I'm going to recommend that you not do that because it's going to be difficult to do that. You're going to have to transfer it, so there's going to be some challenges with that. If you can, I want you to have a computer that you can type your responses in. Well, what if my technology fails? Well, there is a retake, but let's try to make sure that we get it done the first time. But if you do have issues, there is a way to retake the exam in June, and we'll talk about that if that need arises. Now, what is the format of the AP exam this year? It's going to be 2 free response questions. Question 1 is going to be 25 minutes. You're going to have 2 stimuli on that. It's going to be a map, chart, graph, text, image, something to that effect. And that question 1 will constitute 55% of the exam. So it's going to probably be a little longer than the second question. Then you'll have, after you write the answer, you'll have about 5 minutes to submit your response. But once you submit it, you can't go back. So use your time. Use the whole 25 minutes to review your answer, to make sure you've got everything in there that you want, that you've answered the question. Because once you submit it, you're done. You can't go back. It's gone. Then you go on to question 2. You'll have 15 minutes to answer that question. There'll be 1 stimulus in that question, and that'll constitute about 45% of the exam, so a little less than the first question. Once again, the same thing. Once you submit question 2, it's gone. So use the whole time if you have it and make sure you've got everything you need, and then once you submit it, you're done. Test is over. Now, what is a stimulus? I've already mentioned this to you, but a stimulus, it can be a graph. It can be a graph like here. It can be a chart. Definitely, there's going to be a map on the test. I guarantee it. It could be a photograph. So these are stimulus. It could even be a little piece of text, but it's most likely one of these 4 that you're going to be analyzing and looking at. So which units are going to be assessed? The focus is going to be on units 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So thinking geographically, population migration, culture, political, and agriculture. The reality is it'll probably be, the focus of the question will be 2 through 5 and utilize the skills of 1. But you can still use your knowledge of units 6 and 7. If you learn those things, awesome. If you haven't, it probably won't hurt you, but it definitely, if you know some urban geography, can you use that to help answer this? For sure. And economic development, understanding some of that economic development concepts and moving it in there, you can use that. But remember, the focus of the question will be on units 1 through 5. So that's the focus, with crossovers and potential background knowledge that you can use from other units. Now, is SPNDC important? OMG, that says goodness, is important. Yes, you should know that. You should review and make sure that you understand economic stuff, that you're talking about jobs and money, social and cultural elements, dealing with beliefs and values, the societies, the conditions in which people live in. Political, if you're answering something political, you should be talking about borders, governments, laws, policies. These are the things that should be discussed. Environmental, what is the impact on the environment is a super fair question. So make sure you're talking about that, like pollution, but don't just say pollution, say like air pollution, water pollution, soil pollution, and discuss it. And then demographic, these would be like population statistics, birth rates, death rates, life expectancies. These are demographic characteristics. Make sure you review those and that you know them. They will appear in some form, is my estimation. I'd be shocked if they're not on there in some form. Now, what will I be asked to do? So here's some educational jargon for all of you, using an authentic real-world situation or scenario. So like, what the heck is that? Well, that's basically, they're going to give you a couple graphics and you're going to have to interpret them and make sense of where are they occurring in the world. And there's some verbs associated with this. You're going to maybe have to identify something in that picture or describe what's happening, explain the processes, compare, apply concepts, processes, and models. All these models that you've been learning, all this vocabulary that you've been learning, they're going to ask you to do something with that. Now, as you analyze whatever you're looking at, you're going to be looking for patterns. Those are my students' 4-level analysis. What is the pattern? And be able to describe that pattern. What is the relationships and the connections that exist between items in the question or the concepts they're being asked about? And then what are the outcomes, the results, the impacts, that level 4 of 4-level analysis? You're going to need to be able to do those things. Now, remember how to write. Now, each verb has certain elements associated with it. Identify is usually 1 to 2 sentences is usually suffice. Any more than that is kind of being wasteful. So you're asking you something on the picture, the image, just answer it with 1 to 2 sentences should be sufficient. Explain. Explain usually requires the most writing. Now, my students, you know to use claim, explain, provide evidence, or geographic examples. So your claim is what your short answer to the question is. Then you're going to explain it, talk about it a little bit, and then you're going to support that with evidence from the stimulus or geographic examples that you know about. And this is going to be typically 3 to 5 sentences. Usually in explain, you're going to be answering why or how something occurs. Probably use the word because will probably be in there also. So this one's going to require probably the most writing, but 3 to 5 sentences should suffice. Describe. This is similar to explain, but it's really more you're just telling us about something, but you're going to use the same process. Claim, explain, evidence, and geographic examples. Usually about 3 sentences, maybe 4 is sufficient to do a describe. Okay. Compare. Compare is the hardest one. You have to do 2 things to get 1 point, so make sure that you study how to write compare and ask your teachers to do this. I might produce a new video on this one later, but remember the urban FRQ. If you're in my class, the structures I gave you are the development theory FRQ from a few years ago of developing similarities and differences. The hardest part is compare, so make sure you review how to do that. Define. I'm not sure define is going to show up on this test, but I'm going to still talk about it just in case. You would give a definition, and then you would follow that up with some sort of example to support it. We're talking 1 to 2 sentences total to answer this. The reason I don't think it's going to show up is because a definition is pretty easy to look up and find. But I do think they will ask you to apply a concept. Now, within that application, you certainly can define the concept, but do support it with examples if you have them. And then last thing here is answer all parts of the question. I think the first question will have 7 parts like we've been practicing all year. The second question, I'm guessing, will have 4 to 5 parts. It's a guess, but that's my estimate of what will happen. But make sure you answer all parts of the question, A, B, C, D, E, F, G. And each one will be worth 1 point, and they're all equally weighted. Some will probably be a little easier, some will be harder, but make sure that you answer all the questions. Give them a shot. Okay, you can't get a point unless you answer it, so go for it. Now, remember over here, my students, you've heard me say this a lot. The burden of proof is on you to prove to me, the reader, that you know what you're talking about. I don't need to prove anything to you. You have to prove it to us, the readers who are scoring your responses. So don't leave anything. If you know a little bit, say it, okay? Don't get too verbose, get to the point, but follow the guidelines that I said just previously. Now, when I'm reading responses, I hear all the time, I'm interested, tell me more. I'm like, I can't give you a score for something I can't see. The readers don't know you, so you've got the burden of proof is on you. But I never hear, man, that essay was just too good. Why'd they write that essay so awesome? We don't hear that. So, but all the time we hear, I'm interested, tell me more. So just tell me a little more, not 6 paragraphs more, a couple sentences more, okay? And follow the guidelines that I just set aside and we've talked about all year. I heard the exam is open note. Is that true? Yes, it is. It is open note, but there is a strict time limit. So you'll run out of time if you try to look everything up, and the questions are designed specifically so that you can find you can't find the answer in a textbook or online, but it's okay to have your books available. Like if you want to quickly, if you're not sure about a concept, quickly look it up in here or in your Rubenstein book. But you got to do it quickly, have all your resources set out in front of you, have your notebook there, and be familiar with where everything is so that you can quickly find it. Don't spend 10 minutes looking for stuff, a couple minutes, and then get going. Okay, so it is open note and open book, and you can use those things, but don't spend 15 minutes looking stuff up and leave yourself 6 or 7 minutes to write. That would be foolish. This is why you need to study and know this stuff when it comes into the test. Can I call a friend? No, definitely not. Heck no, don't do it, all right? Don't even think about any academic dishonesty. We're asking you, they're giving you an open book test, open note test. That's a good thing. But you need to be strong enough in your character. I trust you guys. Trust with me has always been a big deal. And the College Board is trusting you to do the right thing. Now, there'll be a few knuckleheads out there that are going to try to test the system. But I'm telling you, College Board was going to come down hard on students that they find that out. There's lots of technological stuff that's going on behind the scenes that are checking for that, like plagiarism and checking your browser's probably going to be locked down. So there's going to be some things in place, all right? And so you want to make sure you don't do it, because if you do get caught cheating or doing something unethical, the College Board is going to put some serious hammers down. Just a few, like pretty much you're never taking another AP exam ever. You're probably going to be reported to all the potential colleges that you ever wanted to go to. And you're going to be not able to take the SAT or PSAT. It's just not worth it. Trust yourself in this process. I trust you. I know you'll do the right thing, but don't be a knucklehead and just do the right thing. And I believe in you, and I'm not worried about you, but don't even think about it. It's just not worth the risk. Now, here's the big question I get all the time. How do I prepare? Well, have a plan. We are developing a plan for you and sketching these things out over the next 5 weeks of how to get ready. But here's some things that you can do, and you got to have a plan because it's your ID, it's your test. So big ideas. Vocab is critical. Even though they probably won't ask you to define a term, knowing what terms means increases the likelihood that you're going to talk about the concept in the right way and apply it in the right context. Really important. Quizzing yourself using Albert, AP Classroom, the vocabulary quizzes that we're giving you. Make sure that you're utilizing those and that you're seeking understanding. Work with somebody, teach with each other. Now, this is a little harder because of the virtual stuff, but you can certainly call up each other and get on the phone and test each other back and forth and use Quizlet and all kinds of things to teach someone, quiz each other, help each other out. Hey, and if you can't explain it, you don't know it. Don't kid yourselves. You have to be able to explain it. Really important on this test. Use the resources that we give you on Schoology, that your teachers give you. Use those. They're beneficial and help them. Ask questions. If you're not sure about how to understand something, ask somebody. You can ask me. You can ask your teacher. You can ask anybody. Okay? So ask and seek understanding. Practice FRQs. Do them. Okay, my students, I'm going to be giving you lots of practice FRQs. I want you to practice them, and we're going to do some simulated ones under time pressures and mimic these things and make sure that you're practicing them and doing them. And finally, seek to understand, not just recognize. Oh, I think I know what that term means. You have to be able to understand it and explain it. And if you can, you're in good shape. But if you just recognize it, that's not going to be enough on this test. You're going to have to be able to do that. The one other thing I should have put on here is there's going to be some skills that I'm going to go over with you. Reading maps, reading charts, reading graphs, making sure that you're interpreting things and photos. We're going to practice that. So making sure that you're practicing looking at stimulus is going to be a big part of our preparation. I believe that we can do this. I teach for a 5. Because if I teach to a 3, you're going to probably get 2s. I'm going to teach you to a 5. And if you have a good day, you'll get a 5. You have a bad day, you'll get a 3. But let's go for it, and let's do the best that we can do with this. And I believe in you, and I know all of you out there can do this. So let's go for it, and let's just crush this exam. Take care. Love you guys, and let's get ready for this test.